Hello, everybody. The title of my research is Student Learning Assessment from a Virtual Field Trip. My name is Amna Salman, and I'm an adjunct professor at the McWhorter School of Building Science, Auburn University. We all know that teaching through field trips is an established and highly effective practice as students learn more when they see the objects in reality. However, it is not always feasible to take a large class on field trips due to time, safety, and cost concerns. This research is even more important in the current times of COVID-19 pandemic when we cannot meet in large groups and most of the courses that are offered remotely. The outline of this presentation is as follows. I will define my research, background and motivation, literature review, objectives, methodology, results, and conclusions. So some introduction to the research. There are two core courses, Structures of Building 1 and Structures of Building 2, that building science and architecture students take at Auburn University. In Structures of Building 2, we teach design of steel, timber, and concrete members and connections. Since I've been teaching this course for a few years, I have realized that visualization skill acquisition is very important to understand spatial configuration of steel connections in steel construction. Currently, we are using 2D drawings, pictures, and field trips to teach students about the steel connections. As I have stated earlier, that it is not always feasible to take a large class on field trips due to many reasons. So creating virtual field trips using 3D virtual models could provide an engaging and meaningful experience to students when actual field trip is not possible. So the research aim was to investigate if virtual field trip could replace or substitute an actual field trip in the times of need. So I did extensive literature review, and some are stated on this slide. For example, Azar 2017 explains 3 case studies where he used BIM models and immersive technology to identify safety hazards and concerns on a construction site. On the other hand, Sampio et al. In 2010 explains the bridge building in VR through 3D and 4D models. Kim et al. In 2018 created 360-degree panoramic photography as a replacement of an actual construction site visit when learning about construction sequencing. So the main objectives of this research was to create a steel sculpture app showing different steel connections. So on the right-hand side, you can see a steel sculpture that is on our campus. It has 48 different steel connections. I did not explain all 48 connections in the app. We shortlisted some of the connections that we normally teach in our structures classroom, and then applied those connections in a real in a construction framing plan where the students can see those connections, how they're applied, where they're applied, and how the load bearing occurs in the framing plan. So then once the app was developed, we deployed the VR app in steel structures course, evaluated its efficacy through a knowledge test and student feedback. So when we started off with creating a storyboard. Each and every scene was planned and designed. We created an avatar that acted as an instructor and explained the whole connections. So you can see over here on the right hand side, there's some of the pictures from the app. The arrows are showing that which app is being discussed, and the app. So the app is divided into 6 different modules. Each module explains the one different connection, and then explains its installation, and then also shows how that connection is installed in a framing plan. Where is it installed, and how the load bearing occurs. So we only explain those connections which we normally explain in the structures classroom. And then we designed a framework to develop and deploy the VR models. We used SketchUp to create the models, and then we exported the models in Unity. That's where everything had all the cameras were placed, the sound was added. That's basically where the whole app was created. And then we exported it to Oculus Go. Oculus Go has a release channel, where you can release your app. You can release your app to a limited audience, and that's what we did. And then we developed a framework to test that app. So we divided the students into control group and experimental group in order to look at their knowledge retention and how the learning occurred. So luckily, I was teaching two sections of the same course. So one section was experimental group, and the other section was the control group. The experimental group learned through the app, the VR app, and whereas the control group learned through the physical field trip, or the actual field trip. Then in the next class session, we had a knowledge test, we had a quiz, and then we analyzed the results. But in order to get students' feedback, we had to give both of the experiences to the two groups. So the experimental group also learned through the field trip, and the control group also learned through the VR app. And then student feedback was taken and data was analyzed. So the results. Students who learned through the steel sculpture app scored higher than the students who learned through the physical field trip, which means that the experimental group mean value was higher than the control group mean value. These values are out of 10, so there were 10 questions. Each questions had carried 1 point each. The experimental group scored 7.79, whereas control group scored 7.45. A t-test was also performed. The p-value was 0.028, which shows that there was no significant difference in the data. Now, the students in the control group got those questions wrong, those connections wrong that were really complicated. So we can say that because in the experimental group, students learned without any distraction, there was good sound, good visualization, that is why they scored higher. However, the sample size is very small to categorically confirm that students learn better in the through virtual field trips. So we need more data in order to confirm that. We also did a workability test, and we used the NASA TLX test. That test has a scale of 1 to 10 and has 6 criteria listed over here: mental demand, physical demand, temporal demand, performance, effort, and frustration. So basically, you can measure any task. Through the NASA TLX test, so which is explained over here in this slide. We also did a student feedback, and I would request you to consult the paper and also this presentation in order to get a understanding of student feedback. So the conclusion, the app serves as a field trip. Many times physical trips are not possible due to time, safety, and cost limitations, and hence it could serve as a replacement. Also during the current times, COVID-19 pandemic, we need to provide some sort of way for students to visualize a construction site. So virtual field trips are great for that. I'm also working on my future projects related to AR and MR. If anyone would like to look at the Steel Sculpture app and like to incorporate it in their classes, in their courses, please contact me on this email address. Thank you very much.